Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of filmandtvreview.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Filmandtvreview.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see filmandtvreview.com.
Hello there, and welcome to Film and TV Review. We have quite a selection of titles that have come out, quite a busy season. Mission Impossible, obviously the big one, Lilo and Stitch, Predator, and of course came to its conclusion. Quite a few titles, so we'll just jump straight in. I think one of the first big releases, obviously, for the summer was Mission Impossible. This was Mission Impossible 8 of the kind of concluding chapter. Ethan Hunt and his team race against the clock to recover the rogue AI or the entity submerged in a Russian boat, or rather submarine, just to stop global catastrophe. Plenty of bombs, aerial chases, and it'd be interesting just to see how this team's final adventure, quotation marks, comes to play out. I think we all saw this. James, Alfonso, Andrew, what did we think? Were you pleased with this conclusion of Mission Impossible 8? And do we really think it's the end? James, you saw this as well.
So it's not the end. It isn't the end. And when you think of no time, Daniel Craig's last outing as Bond, Keanu Reeves' last chronological outing as John Wick, they have very distinct endings, which kind of closed the door pretty much on those franchises, and they didn't do that here. And I mean, where do I start with this? I really enjoyed Dead Reckoning. Fallout is absolutely amazing. I went to watch the first Mission Impossible back in 1996 in cinemas, and people forget now how brilliant that first twist was, that now we do think of it as the Tom Cruise sort of vehicle, but it was a TV show in the 60s, and they kind of set up that it was going to have this team at the start of the 1996 film. And spoilers for a 29-year-old movie, but the team that includes Kristen Scott Thomas, Emilio Estevez, they're all wiped out before the credits. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing.
Ego was too big.
Yeah. And sort of Chris McQuarrie has obviously come on board for the later installments, and there's been these amazing action sequences. Dead Reckoning that was out, was it 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. I know Richard didn't like that one. I thought it was a roller coaster from start to finish. There's a little bit at the start where they talk about you've got Robert Delaney from the Deadpool films, and they're kind of in a room just talking about AI. It's a little bit boring, but it's the start of the film. It's 5 minutes. I don't care. There's a bit in the middle where they talk about AI, which was the bit where I just nipped out to go to the loo. and I missed that bit. And everyone said that was such a boring scene. I was like, oh well, I missed it, so I don't mind. And really, I just felt that anybody who was sort of picking holes in the plot, I was like, that isn't the point, though. It is this action roller coaster. So we get to this one, which I was really looking forward to. And I mean, I've said this before, that there isn't really such a thing as a film is too long or too short. And weirdly, I've ended up saying this to a few people recently. Oh, it shouldn't be 3 hours. It's too long. That isn't what I mean. I think it's really badly written. I don't think there's any way around that. And I know that opinions are, subjective. I really feel objectively that it's objectively badly written. And I think it's the fact that there's a sort of thing with film of show don't tell. And the first 75 minutes of this really is them kind of saying that AI is gonna, the end of the world through AI. They never really expand on that. And it's kind of like there's something you could do an interesting film that has something to say about AI. You could do that, but this film doesn't do that. The first 75 minutes, they keep telling you how heroic Ethan Hunt is. There's a bit where they literally repeat almost beat for beat to the point that I was like, someone copy and pasted this into the script and they've missed this. That they kind of do this exchange of, you want to sacrifice this many lives to save this man, and it's like, can we just get on with it, please? It just feels like it takes. I feel it's a bit like when people say with Tarantino films that there's nobody there to tell him what needs to go, and I feel that there's nobody here to say we don't need to keep repeating this. We can just get rid of that. We can keep this lean, or maybe there was a feeling of, because this is called The Final Reckoning, even though I don't think it will be. We're going to kind of have 3 hours because that's how you make it epic. Like Endgame was epic 3 hours. It's like, yeah, but Endgame they were kind of packing a lot in to 3 hours. It doesn't feel like this. It feels like it's, and I mean, the sort of the general feeling is that, I don't think that is what generally audiences are feeling, but I know I'm not alone in this. I know a lot of people have kind of gone that the first hour really drags. But I think when you're starved of those action sequences, suddenly you are focusing on the plot and you go, well, this is a nonsense. It doesn't feel, not a nonsense so much, but it just feels overindulgent to me. And I'm aware of not falling into that trap now and talking about how much I hated this film for 3 hours. So I'm going to pass it on to someone else who likes it.
Okay.
I need to reply to it.
Yeah, go for it. We really need to balance.
But I'll let Alfonso talk, because I have a few points I wanted to. But anyway, go ahead, Alfonso.
Okay. Well, I agree with James. I mean, this is strange, because I think to begin with, AI is a bad enemy. This is not even an AI that talks. On the movie, this is not Scarlett Johansson trying to make Tom Cruise fall in love with her or something. It's not like, it doesn't do much apart from it has a plan. It is about, everyone explains the plan to everyone. The AI is just there, sitting there, saying, "Oh, I have a plan." Yeah. And well, apart from an exchange that they have in some kind of sarcophagus in the beginning, and it's a weird thing that he when they, I think Tom knew what he wanted to do. Like, I don't know what I think it benefited more the AI than Tom about knowing each other's plans in that kind of communication. But anyway, I think the movie bets too much on Tom's solo journey. He's very convinced of what he wants to do. It's not like he has, I mean, even though everyone is like, "Oh, he's rogue. Oh, you have done things badly in the past, or should we trust you or whatever?" But he knows what he wants to do, and he goes through the paces, fighting whoever he has to fight, doing whatever stunts he has to do. And it gets boring because he doesn't have really someone to fight against, because the AI is no one. There are other people, of course, but the main villain is not there really, and he has no moral conflict Well, not so much, because I mean, at some point they say people are gonna die, but it doesn't transform into anything. The AI has many scenarios, and don't go into whatever. But you don't really notice that this guy is on a journey. It's like bum 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 bum, and going on a journey, bum 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 bum. Let's see, and I don't know. It just feels like a little bit lifeless, even though the stunts are, the two action scenes that everyone talks about are good. The submarine, the plane, and everything, they are fine. But they are not enough for. And not with enough characters that you care about. It's just Tom all the time. So yeah, that was more or less my opinion.
Richard, did you agree, or you strongly
Uh,
disagree?
So it's not as
What's it?
strongly disagree. Let's face it. I don't completely disagree with what James and Alfonso just said. Let's face it. I agree with some things. But to be fair, I disagree with the idea that it's a bad movie. It's not. I don't understand, and you're not the only ones saying that. People saying that, let's call it MI7 is better than MI8. I don't get it. And actually, the reason why I'm saying that is kind of answering also what James has said about the 70 minutes or so, which is kind of exposition and nothing happens in Final Reckoning. The exposition, the introduction of Final Reckoning is the whole MI7 movie, in my opinion. Because for me, MI7 was terrible because there is nothing happening in that movie. For me, there is nothing happening. It's just, it felt, when I watched it back in the day, it felt like it was the screenwriter trying to explain to us why the entity, like James was saying, is a big thing, is a big threat, etc. And nobody, because even himself, the screenwriter, I'm pretty sure, didn't believe in this. He didn't believe actually that it would be a huge threat compared to other movies. Because when you compare all the villains of the Mission Impossible movies, perhaps these villains from MI7 and MI8, because it's kind of one single movie of 4 or 5 hours, they are the worst villains. Let's face it. Yeah, I'm trying to think, but yeah, definitely the worst villains. So in a way, they try to explain themselves why they are going on that road, etc. And there is no, and that's why I kind of agree with what James was saying. When you go to see a Mission Impossible movie, you want the spectacle. You want to have seen in the IMAX, to have a great scenes, etc., action scenes. In MI7, there was nothing for me that was amazing. They tried to sell us the idea, why, look, he's jumping on a bike over a cliff or whatever. Tom Cruise does that every Sunday morning, I'm guessing, because for him it's nothing compared to other stuff that he has done in the past in other movies. In MI8, at least, I know it's not enough, I agree with Alfonso, but at least these two scenes, especially the one underwater, I thought it was not only amazing action scene, but also beautifully shot. It's beautiful on big screen, actually, these scenes underwater. And the scene on the plane is extraordinary. I mean, I'm still trying to understand how they managed to do it. And that's the kind of thing I want to see in the Mission Impossible movie. Now, to agree with you that it's by far not a perfect movie, and that's why everybody is saying, me including, saying that actually it's kind of, they try to do an Avengers Endgame stuff, trying to say this is the end, and we kind of try to get closure on all characters. That's not true. It's true, but it's only Tom Cruise. It's Tom Cruise movie, and nobody cares about anything else. So it cannot be an Endgame one. So my opinion, in a nutshell, is saying that the movie is not perfect, but the problem is not Final Reckoning. Is the whole thing. Is this 5-hour movie, 7 and 8 together, that was badly written. That's why either you don't like the whole thing, which is terribly written, because it should have, I'm guessing that they should have thought about it like Infinity War and Endgame were prepared together to actually to kind of put things together with different characters in the first movie, going through obstacles, going through challenges, kind of also getting things from the past, tortured by these things, and then very an ending that is like a terrible ending that you want to see more. All these things were not happening in MI7. So already it starts bad, this conclusion of this saga. And with Final Reckoning, I don't know if they realize their mistakes in MI7, but they try kind of in a 3-hour movie, try to fix these things that they didn't do in MI7 and also give the action scenes. So that's why it makes a terrible movie that try to have too many goals within a 3-hour movie. So in a way, it has tried to end the saga like Marvel has done in 2019, but they failed. In that regard, I agree, they failed terribly. But I can't blame only this MI8 movie. I think it's the whole plan when they decided to go with the entity storyline that they should have they made a mistake. That's my take.
Oh, thanks. It does have a bit more greater stunts in the biplane sequence. It's very good. It kind of like it's worth the cinema experience. But it
Absolutely.
is, yeah, as you say, I think you're right. It was a bit flawed from having the entity as a protagonist. Those entries work best when you do have him against a
A man,
antagonist, a
a man,
protagonist
like a real villain.
Or
personified, which
the
happened in
the way
Fallout and even MI2. Actually, it is not one of the greatest ones, but definitely it works best when Ethan Hunt has a physicality or
Absolutely.
a kind of a protagonist against him, an antagonist. That it works best because it is an action film.
And I will say, Alfonso made a point in the chat a few weeks ago saying actually that I don't remember the name of the actor, the Latino actor who is supposed to be kind of this human villain of MI7 and MI8. I don't remember the guy who plays in Ozark, but anyway, he's supposed to be like thank you, Ezra Morales. He's supposed to be the ultimate villain that Tom Cruise is gonna face because since the beginning of MI7, they say that they kind of have a history that he kind of killed his first love interest or whatever. This is never resolved. They never talk about this in MI8. They completely almost forgot about this storyline. This is crazy. And I'm saying, I have no idea how they wrote MI7, MI8, and they should have wrote it as one story. So that's crazy bad writing, this thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
MI7 at least have Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, and Hayley Atwell, and a train. I don't know. I prefer MI7, but I understand there are many opinions.
Yes, well, okay. It does seem it seems a point where they'll just give it a rest at this point. It's going to doesn't look like an ending. It's more like let's give it it's going to go into hibernation, as it were, from judging from the ending. So and maybe until they work on a story or a budget, its model for because it's difficult to make money back on, especially this production, because it's huge international locations. A good physicality. I mean, that's the one thing about this series. It is a kind of I was thinking when watching it is like old-fashioned cinema where you do have physical action and stuff, so you get to appreciate it on that level. But it's guess fighting its own battle against AI and computer generated movies as of late. But anyway, we'll see. Next, we have another, I suppose, franchise spin-off, whether it wants to be or not. It's Ballerina. This is set in the John Wick universe. So Ana de Armas leads in the title role as Eve Macaro as Ballerina. It's within its own kind of assassination school under the Brasca Roma, and she's out to avenge the death of her father, I guess. It seems a trailer that I think why make this? But I did pop my interest when Keanu Reeves appears in the trailer, so it's no spoilers there. But it's
Okay. I was about to say,
is it as
how many
disappointing
spoilers
as
do
I
we?
think? Is it as disappointing? And I think Richard, you saw this, and James. James, did you see this?
Yeah, so I mean, the plot is pretty much as you've described. I think it's sort of set within the timeline of John Wick 3. It's kind of around that sort of time. Although it does start with the young Eve, so yeah, we see in flashback her played as a child and her parents being killed, and then it's basically her coming to avenge the death of her parents, training as a ballerina, and then going forward. And to be honest, that kind of, you know, brief plot summary is what it's all about, and then every scene is her getting into a fight, and that sounds like I'm disparaging it, but I kind of feel like if you're gonna do an action film, that's what you want. And really, for me, I'm not sure if there is a real hard consensus about with a lot of franchises, there's a definitive favorite. I think with the four John Wick films, I was listening to someone saying the other day, "Oh, the fourth one's the best." I really think the first one is, and I don't think they've got worse. I just think I really like the simplicity of the first one. That they've killed my dog, I'm going to mess them up, and it's again a roller coaster of action. It's like you can't get bored watching this film, and if you're going to watch an action film, that's fine. You know, there are things I was thinking actually when we were talking about Mission Impossible, like Line of Duty, which is a big UK TV show. There is action in that, but sometimes the dialogue scenes are the most tense scenes. So there are franchises that can do it. I think Die Hard is a high watermark of action films, maybe the best action film ever made. Some of the best scenes in that are the tensest when there's no action, when it's like Hans Gruber pulls out the gun against John McClane and all that kind of stuff. But in this, it's literally just, I mean, she's got very good physicality. And the thing about the John Wick films is that Keanu Reeves, they're highly choreographed fight scenes. And they're just amazing. And really, even John Wick 3, which is a very long film, there's an alternate between dialogue scenes and action scenes that means you never kind of get bored for the action. And this is 2 hours, so it's a lot shorter. It might be just under 2 hours. And really, at any point where you think you could get bored, somebody pulls a gun out and tries to kill her, and then you get some crazy fight scene. There's a really cool bit with and it's difficult to spoil anything because you've got to see it, right? But there's a scene in a restaurant where a load of plates fall on the floor, and you go, "Here we go. This is going to be like a fight in a Greek restaurant. They're going to have some fun with this," and they do. They go that way. There's a bit in the trailer where she slams the door against the guy and something explodes. As that scene goes on, there's a quick stunt involving a table where a table is flipped over and somebody I literally hooted like an owl watching this. I went because it's just so
over the
pacey.
top. Over the top.
Yeah, it's so over the top, and it is that difference I find between when I watched Fast and Furious X or whatever that one was called, and then Mission Impossible 7. I mean, I think even you would say, Richard, as someone who didn't like Mission Impossible 7, it's much better than the Fast and Furious franchise. Because Fast and Furious, you kind of watch it like that, watching the action, you're enjoying it or whatever. Like, you feel like something's going to fly out of the screen in Ballerina and like hit you in the face. Like so I think they've done a really good job with the action. It's Len Wiseman directing, who, I mean, he's done the Underworld films and the Total Recall reboot. So I didn't even realize it was him directed. Apparently there was a lot of reshoots for this.
Yeah.
And Lance Reddick, who passed away a few years ago, is actually in this. And apparently they finished principal photography like the month before he died, and I think there was reshoots afterwards, which I assume were for other action scenes. But you know, there was a lot of reshoots on Rogue One, and I don't, you know, it's a good film. I like Rogue One, and I didn't feel there were problems watching this. I felt it really delivered on the action. It's what you want from a John Wick film. Keanu Reeves himself has sort of said, when they've asked him about carrying on, he's like, "I can't do this forever. He's older than you think, you know." And I think he made some comment about his knees won't let him do another full movie. But he's got a presence in this, and I think it's a good. I hate the word baton hand over, but you know they could carry on with this, and it's a good way to keep it going. You've got Ian McShane in there and stuff. So yeah, I sort of went in with no expectations or mid expectations. I thought, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not the best one. I think one is the best one for me, John Wick 1, and I think there's moments in the third film, particularly the team up with Halle Berry. I think might be my favorite sequence in the whole thing. It's sort of subjective, but Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. They're always all beautifully shot, and all the John Wick films is. My main question: do you think this could actually exist as a spin-off by itself without Keanu Reeves? You
No,
could,
no,
yeah.
I don't think so.
I I I don't know. So I heard people saying, "Oh, it's good enough that he doesn't need to be in it." I'm sort of in the middle of that argument because I think it's nice that he's turned up and he's an exec producer on this. So I think it's nice that he's in there. He doesn't steal the movie, but he's in there to give it some continuity. I don't think he needs to be back. I mean, they couldn't do it forever anyway. Spoilers for John Wick 4, but I think it's enough for him to just be in this in some key moments to make you feel that it's part of the same universe. But I thought Anna de Armas did a really good job, but
I think,
other
and then I
opinions
will
are
let
available.
Andrew, because I want to say something, but I truly believe that's how I felt when I saw that he was so much in that movie. Actually, he's not only a cameo for a few minutes; he's actually in the whole third part. Is in the movie. To be honest, it's like for half an hour he's in the movie. And when I saw that, my first reaction was saying that it feels like they are admitting, in a way, to the audience and to themselves that indeed this movie cannot exist without John Wick. But I felt a bit sorry for Ana de Armas almost, but actually he was so much in that movie. That's my opinion.
Sure. Andrew,
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about expanding the whole thing, and they've already attempted with the Continental series, which has kind of got a mixed reaction. And also in the US anyway, it wasn't on one of the more popular streamers. I guess in other countries it's on Prime. But it didn't really have the involvement of a lot of people from the films. So yeah, it was kind of like a mixed thing. And I know when this film was close to coming out, there were a lot of people like, well, how come they didn't do these characters from, I don't know if I should mention because of spoilers, but it seemed like the last film was setting up for something. And,
Oh,
a lot of
yeah,
people kind of wanted to
I know.
follow up with those characters and those performers. So the idea of, oh, they're doing this character who you see
And not the other
briefly in
one.
the third movie and played by a different actress. I guess in the third movie, she's played by an actual ballerina, and here it's Ana de Armas. A lot of people are kind of like, do we really want to see that? And I think the reactions initially to the idea of it and the box office seems to weigh in on that. But those who've seen the film and gave it a chance were like, yeah, this is actually a decent film. In fact, ironically, the one thing that people really don't like is the actual tie-in to the rest of it, and that's kind of like it feels like something shoehorned in. Again, trying not to spoil stuff, but people are like, well, did it really need that? We could have just focused on Ana de Armas. Speaking of which, you do have the whole idea that it's an interquel between the third and fourth movies. And it's like, well, how does that work exactly? Because if you actually think about where the third movie was and where the fourth movie was, where does it fit in the timeline?
Yeah,
On that note, it's a little nitpicky, but
yeah, I
something
agree.
noticeable.
Yeah.
Ian McShane's hair looks really different. So if you actually look at the third and the fourth movies, it's like his hair is a lot longer, and it's like, okay, did he get a haircut or something? And what's up with that? So and on a more little more serious note, like how does the Continental itself fit into all this? Because there were issues going on with that in universe. So aren't they having issues of their own in universe? And she's going to visit there. Aren't they concerned about it? It just brings up a lot of continuity. So it would have probably even been better if they had their own thing instead of having to worry about, well, we have to tie it into this, and then you have to kind of worry about continuity. So I think it like worked best where it's just focusing on Eve and her own story rather than the protagonist on her own story instead of just trying to fit in the whole cinematic universe thing.
okay. Right, thanks. Right, next. Lilo and Stitch, just the film that Mission Impossible went up against at that weekend. This is the live remake of the pretty well received Disney animated movie. This Lilo is a Hawaiian girl, lonely Hawaiian girl who befriends Stitch, a mischievous alien that I think crash lands on the island, and so this is a live action remake. James and Richard, you saw this. Was it? I heard it's quite good. Did quite well, obviously at the box office. What's your
Yeah.
take on this,
I mean,
Go
James, Richard?
Go
yeah,
ahead.
um, yeah, I sort of quite liked it. So to be honest, I've not been, I wasn't familiar with the original. So I was not really watching films, let alone kids' films, I think back in 2002 when the last one came out. I kind of like the trailers they did at the time though, where they had like him being held up in The Lion King. It's like him going into other films and stuff. Um so the story is that Stitch is a creature on another planet who escapes. It's a little bit like the start of Doctor Who, actually. That he's escaped his home place, or a little bit like Rocket out of Guardians of the Galaxy, because he's an experiment of some kind and crash lands on in the UK, and then we meet Lilo, and yeah, she's orphan but living with her. I think it's her like older sister is almost like her mum, um, and yeah, she's a very lonely child. She says some quite dark things, which took me by surprise for a Disney family movie, but and made me laugh quite a bit. Um, but yeah, I thought this was, and then you get the aliens who have experimented on Stitch on the planet. They come to Earth to try and get Stitch back. Obviously, to save on special effects there, and because they need to assimilate, they assume human forms of two human actors as they go around trying to get Stitch back. But I thought this was quite daft and endearing, and I liked it. I thought it was a little bit like Men in Black, if Men in Black was told from the aliens' perspective. I really liked that it was sort of concerned as much with the human characters as the alien characters. So there's sort of stuff about loneliness, um, and sort of the child but feeling like an outsider. That's all in there. And I mean, when we were talking about Minecraft recently, which is obviously a big effects movie, we were saying that doesn't really do any of that stuff. It assumes that you know everything going into it. So I thought it had a good sort of human backstory, and before it piles on the effects and the silliness. Um, yeah, so that was quite good. I think it's quite funny as well. I thought there's some quite good jokes in it. There's some quite crude jokes, but just make sure that your children know not to drink lava lamps and things like that, because there's quite a lot of imitable behavior in it. But yeah, I thought it was a fun family movie, basically.
Richard, I'm guessing you loved it as much as James.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the minority here because I know, yeah, it's. I'm guessing it's going to be one of the biggest box office success of the year. Looks like it anyway. So first of all, and I know that I'm an old person who keeps saying the same things over and over again. What was the point in this movie? Since exactly the same thing as the animated version of whatever 20 years-ish ago or 30 years ago. Well, that's the first problem. But anyway, I keep saying that for all the Disney remakes. So Disney live action remake, I mean. But for the record, when I go to see this kind of movie, this is not Richard who is 40 years old watching it. I'm trying to, definitely, I'm not dumb. I'm trying actually to think myself, what if my niece who is 11 years old will think about this movie? And honestly, that kind of movie for a 8, 9, or 10-year-old, I'm thinking this is a bit sad that that's what has been given to them. Watch the DVD of the animated version 10 times if you want, but again, even for a child, I don't think there was much fun in this movie, or it was very bad jokes. The whole backstory stuff about the kid and the sister playing the mother, etc. Yes, that was, I guess, nice, but I've seen that 1,000 times. The kid is lovely. I guess it's the first time she's on screen, etc. But that's playing safe, because any movie that has a kid, no critics in the world will say she's done a bad job, or he did a bad job. Why? Because they will say, oh, but it's a kid, so of course it's cute, etc. No one's gonna say that. No one. No critics. Maybe the audience will say that, but the critics will always say, oh, it's good attempt, or whatever, nice try, whatever. And that's my problem. Is actually that it plays safe so much, because it's the same movie over and over again. Honestly, if this movie wasn't titled Lilo and Stitch and produced by Disney Studios, it could be a movie that you see for Christmas on a random TV channel at 2 p.m., or even at 2 in the morning. Because I don't think it has much quality in it. The CGI were just okay. I don't know. And I don't understand, because I said, when you are one of the few actually who had an opinion, you will think, did I miss something, or what am I missing here? And honestly, I've been trying to think about it. When I heard actually that had good reviews, I said, what am I missing? Seriously. But yeah, I don't get it. And even while watching it, sometimes, when actually you're bored, you look around in the movie theater, you look at other people's faces, and everybody was enjoying this movie. And I'm not talking about children, also grown-ups. So I was thinking, my God, what is wrong with me? So yeah, I have to go to a psychiatrist or something to figure out what's wrong with me, I guess, now. But it's fine.
Maybe you're just too old for it, Richard. Could that be the problem? Andrew, you got
Yeah, I just want to say, because I had actually, I didn't know, because I guess it didn't sound like either of you had seen the original film, or maybe I misinterpreted that.
I think
did.
Richard
I
has.
did only once. I did in the movie theater 20 or 30 years ago, but
Okay.
only once.
And I will watch the original now, because it piqued my interest. And the thing that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but there's more sentimentality in this version, which
it's
is
true.
what it is. And the
That's
original's a little bit
kind
more anarchic. This is the thing I've heard. I don't know if that's true.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of feel like there was maybe a bit more in the original than this one. Maybe just because from the perspective of the Stitch character, that, yeah, there's certain moments where you kind of get a sense of like, oh, he feels for the family. But I feel like it was more in the original that he kind of was like, oh, okay, you feel bad about these changes. And there's some of that in this, but it seemed like I kind of felt more in the original. I mean, that's just my overall take. I know there was a lot of changes in terms of, I mean, it's the basic story is the same, and there's certain things that are like, oh, it plays out the same way, but in, I guess, the transition from one form to another, there is a case of both composite and decomposite characters. So you have one character who's a combination of two characters in the original, and then two separate characters where before there was one. So, and I guess some of that was for this version. I guess they wanted to have someone who was involved with the original. So they had Tia Carrere come back. Yeah, Tia Carrere come back in live action form as a character. She voiced Lilo's sister in the original, so I guess they wanted to have someone come back as sort of like a nod to the original. But that created a decomposite, so you had her character, and then there was another character, whereas before it was one character instead of two different ones. So little transition things like that. I just kind of feel that in the original, it just was a lot more, I guess, emotionally invested in Stitch and that character. Whereas like here, maybe it was a bit more focused on the relationship of the sisters, and there's like a subplot concerning the older sister, which becomes significant. And yeah, as I said, I thought this was all right. I don't know if it's necessarily a minority or majority, but I think that, yeah, there's a lot of people who grew up with the original kind of like, oh, they want to check this out again. And maybe if they have kids of their own, bring them. I mean, I thought the film overall was all right, but I didn't see a point. I kind of was like, I'm fine with just the original animated. I mean, I get the point; they want to make more money, but I've been fine if it was just the original. And just as a heads up, not going to spoil what happens. I guess there's a mid-credit scene, so I don't know if they're trying to set up for other installments. And I know
I
there's
think based on the box office, there's going to be a sequel. There is a sequel to the original, isn't there? Anyway,
well, they were direct to video, I think, and there was also
Direct
a series.
DVD.
yeah,
Yeah, there was also a
Um,
series.
it's why I tend to try. Do you know what? This is one of the few examples where I haven't watched the original before I've gone to watch the remake. So I did this, even though I'd seen Nosferatu, I went through a week of watching versions of Nosferatu and Dracula before I watched the Robert Eggers version. And I always do this because I remember years ago going to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010, and I'd seen the original years ago, but I'd seen so many of the sequels and things, and I sat through the 2010 one, and I thought I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really good movie, and then I went and sought out the 1984 movie, rewatched that, and I could literally feel my appreciation of the new version ebbing away as I watched it. Because I was like, they've done nothing new here. They've literally just remade the same film, beat for beat. So it's very difficult to compare. So it'll be interesting to go back and watch the animated version now, because maybe I'll have a similar reaction that I think, well, actually, this was a poorer version of the original, but I've not seen it. So.
I think it sometimes is a trick to, do you want to make changes or do you want to do the same thing? Because
Yeah,
in a week you're going to have the same thing with a different studio, DreamWorks, and their remake of How to Train Your Dragon. And I guess some people have already seen it at pre-screenings or whatever are like, well, there haven't been enough changes. So
yeah.
I haven't seen it, so I can't judge. So,
And this is the thing I'm going to duck out of the discussion about. Are you doing The Last of Us today? The end of The Last of Us, Jason? Is that the end of the thing?
We'll
you're
see
not
with
doing it.
time. We'll see. Probably
So,
not.
but I resisted that for a long time because I thought I don't see the point in this TV show. But actually, when I've watched the first episode, and I'm like, I'm really pleased by it. It's faithful enough for me, but there's enough changes to make it
Yeah.
worthwhile doing it. Because otherwise, just play the game, But it's and it's never enough for certain people want it to be exactly how it is, and certain people want it to be changed, don't they? So it's
yeah, but that's a whole other issue. I guess with Lilo and Stitch, it's like a Disney thing. They want to do their remakes of their IP, whatever. I just personally am, I'm just feel like they could have just left this alone. But
Thank you.
that this is necessarily bad per se.
Thank you.
More partial to
Yeah.
the original.
Well, I think the fact that it does bring in such a big box office, and it's a demographic of it's a known quantity for parents to take their kids to.
Yeah.
You got fans of the originals, obviously, and then they can take the kids, and I think we'll see probably some very good business with How to Train Your Dragon, which is coming out this year. Again, a kind of live remake of a very good animated
very
cartoon
very
or TV.
merchandisable main character as well in both
Indeed.
franchises, and I think that's a key thing. So literally, my interest was peaked for Lilo and Stitch because I went into a supermarket and was overwhelmed with the amount of merchandise. I mean, everything: biscuit tins, t-shirts, toys, chocolate bar. It like that. The store had almost changed into the Stitch store, and I was like, I can't ignore this. I'm going to have to go and watch it.
Yeah, same thing for me. Same thing for me. I heard good reviews. I say, let's give it a try. But to be fair, to talk about more of the main problem, the overall problem about all these Disney live action remakes, etc. I wonder, not you, but I wonder, in the future, you think about it. Let's say that one generation had Lilo and Stitch, the animated movie on the big screen, and over animated movies. The 90s had, for me, I'm talking about me, better, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, etc. This current generation, for the last, let's say, 4, 5, 6 years, they're gonna get what? Only Disney live action remakes of things their parents have seen?
Yeah. It is a thing. I mean,
it's
there
weird.
are
It's a
some
bit
new.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, Well, yeah, I think this is a thing with culture generally. Like even with I said I really like Rogue One, but that's the thing with people going to watch. I think that their parents went and watched as well. So there will be original stuff in there, but it's difficult to find. And it used to be Pixar didn't do sequels, but they've got to the point now where they're falling back on sequels. Even though Inside Out 2 was very good, Zootropolis 2 is coming, but they didn't do these things for years. They did original new movies, and now it feels like, oh, we're just trying out sequels all the time. Yeah, legacy sequels. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, like I said, it does seem safe territory for them, legacy sequels and merchandising. I think they're kind of moving into that direction anyway, kind of sure bets in cinema. Anyway, to much more lighter affair, a sequel to I guess it was a Prime movie, or it was in the cinema. It was The
Was it in the
Accountant
cinema? Was
2.
it in the cinema?
I don't know. I think the original was. It could have been. I'm not sure, but it was a few years. But The Accountant 2 or The Accountant Squared came out straight on Prime. I thought this was to be a cinema release, but it's actually original
Yeah.
movie on Prime.
It was in cinemas as well, though.
It's Ben.
Yeah. No, the second one, Jason is right. It's definitely on Prime only in France. But the first one might have been in cinemas.
I think it might have been
The
possibly.
second one was definitely in cinemas near me
Really?
recently,
Oh,
but
really?
I didn't go to watch it. Yeah, I think it might even be on tonight.
First I heard of it, it just Richard told me, and then I saw it. Oh, it's on Prime, original straight
Video counts?
to watch.
In
Yeah,
France?
and original was in cinemas 2016. So in this one, Ben Affleck resumes his role as Christian Wolf, I guess let's say someone on the spectrum who has the moniker of a accountant, but actually is a highly trained assassin, as everyone
Yeah.
else is in movies nowadays.
Sorry,
Um,
what
this
spectrum
is
is he on? Just to clarify, autism spectrum.
Autism.
Okay.
he's on the autism spectrum, James. He's it's it's a kind of like what is this? Kind of like a buddy comedy road movie, Richard.
Yeah, it's a good question. How to, yeah,
It's
honestly, we're talking about original movies. Talking about kind of a movie when you have a guy who kills 1,000 people, at least it's an original idea, kind of original idea.
yes.
There is a
It's
critic who said, I read somewhere, that it's Rain Man on steroids. And I think it's not, and I don't think it's such a bad description, especially the second one than the first one.
surprisingly.
So that is going to be Tom Cruise's next movie, I think.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Well,
With Justin.
he is. Funny enough, it's a kind of a buddy movie. As in, he's joined by his brother,
Yeah, in the
John
second one, especially, yeah.
Befno in this one, and
Yeah.
they off to crack kind of like a mystery to help an FBI agent or to it's a case of kidnapping and trafficking, but they've kind of elect to help this investigation and bring their own sense of justice to it. They're very highly skilled, but it is along the way that both Ben Affleck, who is autistic to an extent, but he's joined by his brother,
Exactly.
who also
Yeah.
in the same trade.
Andrew makes a good point. He says that it's the alliance between Daredevil and Punisher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Devil and
exactly,
Punisher,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Very recognizable names in the comic pre-Marvel years, I suppose. Yeah, so most of it is a kind of fun bonding road movie as they go on to their mission.
Yeah.
Quite light-hearted actually, and
Yeah.
kind of as they attempt to bond with each other.
And quite
Surprisingly,
I
quite a
don't know
fresh
what you
take
think,
on
but
things.
quite funny. The first one, when I already was rewatching, I rewatched like a few days ago only the first one. Compared to the first one, the second one is kind of funnier. It's actually more fun, to be honest, because it's not a spoiler, to be honest. It's not a spoiler at all.
No.
The first scene of the second movie is quite hilarious because you have to think that, again, Ben Affleck plays a guy who suffers from autism, and in a way is using this in his favor in his job because he's an accountant, so he's great with numbers and is very not pragmatic, but he's very logical about every single thing. He's calculating everything in his life, not only in his professional life, but also in his private life. And the first scene is him doing a speed dating scene. And I thought it was hilarious. I don't know, it made me laugh a lot because he's actually tried to analyze how to actually to eat on women. And he did like his homework before going there, and he tried to explain that to the organizers, etc. And when he tries to explain it, I found it funny to us. And there is several scenes during the movie, especially again with John Benthel, whatever his name is, where actually they could few things that are kind of funny about autism. So yeah, it made me laugh more than the first one.
Yeah.
It is one thing though that I surprised that I didn't catch. Jason, you tell me. So it's a bit of a spoiler for the end of the first movie, but the first movie was released 8 years ago, so I'm guessing I can do it. So if you remember the first movie, Jason, maybe you didn't catch that because I don't know when was the last time you saw the first movie.
Yeah, I actually did not see the first movie. It looked
Cool.
so generic.
Okay.
I
Okay, fair
totally
enough.
did not see it. But
Okay.
I thought, I probably don't need to, but it
No,
looked quite
definitely not.
generic.
But the first movie kind of, in a nutshell, as I said, he's kind of a vigilante in a way sometimes in the first movie as well. And he has an assistant. You never see her in the first movie. Never. It's like a mysterious female voice that talks over the phone. You never see her. Then at the end, the last scene of the first movie, and it went over my head so much. In the last scene of the first movie, they go back to the institution for autistic children where he was raised, I guess.
Yeah.
He goes back there in present day, and we're introduced to a girl who grew up with him, and it is tell us at the end of the first movie that the only way she can communicate with the outside world is with a computer. And like a moron, I didn't do the math in my mind. I didn't realize actually that this girl is actually the female voice. It took me half an hour in the second movie to realize that was kind of the cliffhanger of the first movie. That made me laugh. I didn't realize that it was supposed to be a big like cliffhanger ending or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah, like it was a kind of reveal in this, but I kind of it made me glad I did not see the first movie because I knew I kind of didn't need to. And what caught my eye, it just seems a nice double act between them, and it's quite a lighter tone. So you do not need to see the first movie, but
No.
it's like a genre shift, I think. I think the first one looks a bit more like a straight uh assassin movie, almost like Ballerina, where you see the trailer and you think, I really don't need to really see the whole movie to understand what's going on. But it is surprisingly enjoyable.
Yeah.
A bit long, but actually pretty good. Yeah, fair thumbs up with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, from one killer to next, a more of a outer space variety is, of course, Predator from the Predator franchise. Is an animated movie, Killer of Killers. This is some kind of anthology series of like historically, obviously the predators, the concept that they've been hunting prey across the world's past on different killers, but it seems this one takes that kind of like thread. Andrew, you saw Predator, Killer of Killers. This is I think on Hulu, I think in the States, and
On
bit
Disney Plus, yeah. The Hulu
Disney
Disney
Plus.
Plus, yeah.
Yeah. Heard some good things about this. It's a anthology, I'm guessing. Yeah. Is it good or is it worth the
Yeah,
time?
see, I say anthology because that's the way it's kind of structured, but it's kind of tying things together and without trying to give away too much because people haven't had a chance to watch it yet because it just got released or just got launched. I would say they're trying to set up for stuff down the line. So to give you a real life context, Dan Trachtenberg directed this. He's the same one who directed Prey, Prey,
Yeah.
which came out a couple years ago. He directed this, and he will direct. It's coming out later this year. Predator: Badlands.
Yeah.
So I guess they tried to do a Predator film back in 2018, didn't do very well. And I guess for a little bit they were sort of like reluctant, and then they released Prey to, I guess it was direct to streaming, Disney, Hulu, whatever, same company. And didn't want to take a chance in releasing it in cinemas. So, and Prey got a lot of good response.
Yeah.
So Trachtenberg came back to direct this one, and he's directing the live action one coming out later this year. So the sense I'm getting is that they kind of, without trying to spoil, again, you haven't seen this yet, but they're trying to set up for other stuff down the line, not just later this year. So that way it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get there's going to be more content. For this particular film, it's and I think it's something where people are kind of curious to talk about things people ask for or what they don't ask for. I would say in this case, people are kind of curious about previous visits by the Yautja, if that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of redundant to call them predator, alien. You say xenomorph, Yautja, yeah, that's what they are. In this case, the Yautja have visited Earth before, not just with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover and all the rest of them. They've visited Earth in the past. You saw that in Prey with indigenous peoples of what would become the U.S. and Canada, and they in this case they visit Earth during Norse times, I guess, that part of Europe in the 800s AD, and then you see them again several centuries later in Japan, early 1600s Japan, and then you see them again during World War II. So the idea is that they go to Earth during certain times of a lot of conflict. I mean, you already knew this, you've seen the films, and try to target the people on Earth, the individuals on Earth who they consider to be the best warriors. And here they kind of expand upon the whole lore, at least in terms of visual media, as opposed to the novels and the comics. Maybe some of the stuff is referred to before, but here you get the idea of, if you haven't really read the expanded universe materials, the idea of like, okay, why are the Yautja doing this? What is it leading up to? And what is their, what is their goal with a lot of this? And here you get more of a sense of that, of like why they're going to visit different places around, different parts of space. In this case, visiting Earth. What is their goal here? And it's not like other extraterrestrials where they visit Earth for an invasion, conquer, that kind of thing. Here it's more they're setting up for things, and you kind of get that. So you get a chance to meet these different characters from different time periods in Earth's history, and it's certainly an interesting take. The idea of what it's like to have the Yautja in these earlier periods, fighting against Norse warriors or warriors in 17th century Japan, or even during the Second World War. How did they adapt to each time period? They have the technology to just come in and just make it a very short story. I'll just leave it at that. But they want more of a challenge, and that's kind of almost reminds me of other species. On Star Trek Voyager, there was also the characters called the Rojan, who kind of wanted to, I guess, was kind of like a very similar thing to the Yautja. I almost say ripoff, but that's a whole other thing. But I thought this film was. I thought Predator Killer of Killers was pretty good. I just feel like it was a little too much towards the end of it. Kind of try to set up for other installments instead of self-contained. So it's like, if you just want to watch one thing and only one thing, maybe it's not the best thing, but that's just the way things are nowadays, whether it's Disney or other companies. So it's like you watch it and then you're like, okay, now I have to watch other content. Um, but I think for the most part, it's like, yeah, if you've seen other Predator films and you kind of want to know a little bit more about, hey, what was it like to have them visit Earth in the past? Here you get a sense of that. And a little bit about the Yautja culture, and I guess that's setting up for the film later this year. So yeah, I
Mm.
thought it was pretty decent. Um, I'm just kind of curious
Seems,
about for the future how much homework people will have to do to watch stuff. So
yeah, I hope it doesn't turn into a kind of like I know we have Alien Earth coming out this year on Disney. So I hope we don't end up with some kind of cross universe
uh,
Yautja alien xenomorph
just so you
verse.
know, I just want to jump in right there for Predator Badlands. Again, it's coming out in 7 months, so this isn't really a spoiler. It's just general information. One of the main characters is an android, I guess the Elle Fanning character, android from the Wayland Yutani company.
Tiny,
So
yeah.
it's already happening. So
Yes, whether you like it or not. Yes, fantastic. Yes, I was feared, my greatest fear has come true. But anyway, I'm glad that the Predator's making a resurgence there. It seems with the Prey was received quite well. It was almost where you wished it actually had come out in cinema, but it's good this director seems to his hands on the steering wheel on this franchise, so it is quite promising actually, and maybe Badlands looking forward to as well. Right, next. Uh, this is another Disney Star Wars series, which probably ended up being some of the best episodes on TV for a while, which was Andor season two concluded. I think we spoke a little bit about this in the last episode, but I think here we've watched the final episode, which I'm glad I stuck with because some of the episodes which almost feel like standalone, but it is the lead up to the Andor character and his role in Rogue One. So very much the spy, almost like a wartime drama, but obviously set in a galaxy far, far away. But it is home to some great writing in this series and very good standalone performances and episodes. Think Richard, you agree with this? So you
100%.
on
100%.
Andor. What any kind of highlight episodes towards this latter half? Because I think that's where it really picked up. These some of my favorites are these and they're almost standalone episodes. But
No, no,
any
I
things
like
that
to hear more about your thoughts because I know that you were obviously and completely understandable why you were very, let's say, a pessimistic you're about this show because it's true and I understand why because the same problems kind of happen in the first season and second season is that the first 3 4 episodes are always super slow and you think okay that's a bit boring and then for
mm,
some reason surprisingly every time starting 5 or 6 it's like a completely different show almost in regards to quality pacing even acting it's so surprising to me but I like to hear your
it's
thoughts first about
yeah. Well, exactly that. I think the considering it's no secret how expensive these two seasons were, and it's
crazy
it's
crazy
Terry
amount.
Gilroy's insistence on real sets, locations, and it's. I think he said you won't get that kind of spending anymore. It's the end of that era. It's only because he had some pretty good protection at Lucasfilm, and Disney were quite happy also to give him that, just as because I guess the quality of the writing and which was the word of mouth from the season one. Season two, yes, it was a bit running. That was it only 8 or 9 episodes, or maybe a bit more, but it's a lot of it. The initial season was very, very slow when you should be gearing up, and I thought, fine, okay. Then I did hear that these last episodes, the latter half, definitely incredible. Writing, one of the best. I was thinking, well, maybe it's a bit overblown, maybe but it's. I think the best these episodes, like I said, they almost stand like standalone episodes, like wartime stories. I think my favorite definitely was is Luther, the character, who he's kind of mastermind at the Spider's Web mastermind behind the initial rebellion, which is his under. It's a spy master. It's kind of like has a flashback of who he's taken under his wing, a kind of
Stellan
refugee.
Skarsgård.
Yeah, Skarsgård, brilliant. Who's I think was one of the standout performances in the entire show, quite honestly, apart from the even more than the leading character. And I think it was fantastic how his it is like a portrayal of what you must give up and the actions that you must do, that you have to get your hands so dirty in wartime, whether you're the good side or bad side, however you want to call it. It's a great kind of standalone drama series, even just the episodes. So that on its strength on that alone, it's great. You can just dip in, watch it, and you don't even have to see the rest of the episodes. But it's great performances there. I think it's the mixture of good writing and great performances there, and taking it seriously, which you don't, I mean, it's very fine balancing out with Star Wars. What do because the tonal shifts are threaded with such different genres, but this one definitely, it's almost like a very pre-Star Wars, which you'd get in the 70s, I think. These kind of very serious, wartime allegories kind of thing. And I think it's those latter episodes which earned its stripes with. I still think the initial episodes are a bit too stretched, quite honestly. It doesn't quite warrant it. But what about for you, Richard? What were your how do you take that season? Do you think it
Oh,
all great or any favorites? Or...
no, I agree with you. I said, yeah, definitely. The first three episodes were boring. It is written and built as arcs, literally arcs of
Yeah,
three episodes,
sure.
and it was released like this in the first season and second season, every Tuesday, Wednesday, three episodes, and then the way,
Mm,
etc. The first three episodes, even especially Andor's character in the first three episodes, you wonder what the hell is happening here. Who cares about this?
yeah,
That's so weird, actually. But this show is called Andor, and this is what happens to him. But yeah,
yeah.
and then it gets better and better, and the stakes, is that the right word in English? The stakes are so high in the second half of this show. And you're right, it's definitely the most serious Star Wars thing I've ever seen in my life. Literally, movies, TV shows, whatever. And it's good because it's, again, you can almost remove the Star Wars title, whatever, the connection, and it will remain an amazing show about, as you said, about spies, but also about politics, and that's why I think it resonates, and that's why it works so well, because no matter what you believe in politics nowadays, it definitely makes you think about stuff, and kind of, when you are, well, now kind of controlling myself, but when you are a fan of Star Wars from back in the day, you always wanted in a way to understand how a republic can go into an empire, and how it was at the beginning, etc., and how easily it can go from a republic to an empire, a democracy can go to a dictatorship, and how actually the first years of a dictatorship will go, and how the rebellion was born from it, etc. And there was some books or whatever in Legends, or not Legends, etc. But I've done some, I've wrote some things, I've done some studies about this, but nothing compared to Endor, in my opinion. The second half of Endor felt extremely sad in a way, because it feels, and no point intended, hopeless. There is no hope in the second half of Endor or any of the character, and that's why I liked it so much, because they live in a regime, they live in a political system that has no hope, and it's really, really well done. And the main characters that you might see or not see in Rogue One and other movies, the fact that you know what they will become, it's sometimes even worse, to be honest, knowing what they're gonna become. Yeah, I really, truly, actually believe, actually, that yeah, it is one of the best written a thing in Star Wars since 1977. Yeah, that's saying something, because it shows actually that you can take an IP, a franchise that is supposed to be just entertainment, pure entertainment, and you can do something smart and serious about it, and still don't lose your fans, and being taken seriously by academies and critics, etc. It's not impossible. You just have to take your job seriously, I'd say. And yeah, it's really well done. And I agree that Luther is definitely one of the best characters of the show. But even his episode that is centered on him and his protege, his assistant, is pretty amazing, to be honest. The episodes centered on Mon Mothma character is, for me, has become almost a classic. The one scene about her has become a classic within the Star Wars world, let's say, I think. But no, it's when you look at all the disappointments that we had in the Star Wars world in the last 10 years, he is like the light in the darkness, let's say, this thing. And I'm sad in a way that it has ended, but also it's great because they would not be spoiled by spin-offs or whatever. It's great that actually they created something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. With the end is kind of Rogue One. I'm really grateful to Tony Gilroy. Yeah. Andrew, you want to talk? I think.
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I don't know if this is certainly a popular opinion, and I think it's certainly a minority one. And I keep in mind, I did like overall the second season, I think, but I would say I prefer the first season to the second one. And I think the main reason has to do, and I don't know if James wants to mute or not, because I'll try not to spoil too much. But I think there's a lot of the time skips. So what happens with the second season is you have, to basically sum up, is that this is all like the first season was 5 years before Rogue One. And so then the second season is a year after. The first 3 episodes are a year after the first season. Then the 3 episodes after that, this is all during the second season. 3 episodes after that are a year later. 3 episodes after that are a year after that. And then 3 episodes. Yeah, it's like there's all these time skips. And so between all these time skips, it's like you have 3 episodes, and then the 3 episodes after that, they start with, okay, this is how many years it is before the Battle of Yavin, how they measure time in the Star Wars verse. And it's like you have characters who are in a different situation, and they're talking about something, and it's like, I guess because of the whole show don't tell type of thing, like, yeah, certain times you kind of like, you can infer things, or you don't need to show them. But here I'm kind of like, well, yeah, I would have liked to have seen that. Yeah, I know that maybe they want to expand upon it in the expanded universe material, but I kind of would have liked to have seen some of the things that they talk about when they return after time skips. Like, after one time skip, you have the characters who are in this different part of, Star Wars verse. They're living here, and it's like, how'd they get to be living there? And then they're talking about some situation, and it's like, okay, well, what happened? Well, I want to know more. Well, what's that like? I'm curious now. I mean, what we get is really great. And I understand it would have been great if they had done more seasons. I understand why, the real life context. It's not just a budget thing. From what I understand, it was a lot of work, given the filming schedules for streaming nowadays. It's not like it was in the past. So everything is done one right after the other. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. I get that. I just would have liked to maybe have things spread out a little bit more. And maybe if they had done another season to kind of like, instead of like, season 1 is just, 1 year time frame or close together, and then to try to condense everything in the second season, it felt a little rushed for me. So I would have liked to see more seasons. I get that they didn't do more. I get why they didn't do that. It's a lot of work. but I just kind of felt, because of the whole time skip thing, a little rushed. So what we got was good. I just kind of prefer the first season, versus the second season. The whole Iston Aldani and that whole thing, and then the aftermath of that. The second season, it seems like there's a lot of good stories, but I would have liked to see certain things expanded upon that the characters talk about. How did things get to be in that situation or circumstance? So that's just my take. So still good, but again, I prefer the first season to the second. So
oh, good. Thanks. Right. Well, that brings us to this episode. Thanks to Andrew, Alfonso, James, and Richard. And for you listening, see you next time. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TV review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.